What do Greensleeves, Hot Stuff by Donna Summer and Oompa Loompas all have in common? Well, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you. They all make use of something called the melodic minor scale. So if that sounds like the kind of playlist you can get on board with, then stick around and we'll see what's involved. So, the melodic minor scale. Unlike a major scale, which tends to come as a pretty fixed entity, minor tonality can bugger us around a little bit by coming in a few different forms. Most of the time, the first type of minor scale that musicians tend to learn is a natural minor. Now, if we play that in the key of A, we would have the following notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. So that's a root note, a second, a minor third, a fourth, a fifth, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh, and then an octave. A melodic minor scale follows a rather different pattern. It starts the same. We have a root note, a second, a B, minor third, C, a fourth, a D, a fifth, an E, but then we go up to a major sixth, which is an F sharp, and then a major seventh, which is G sharp. So you notice the resolve of this scale is rather different. A natural minor has a rather weaker resolve than a melodic minor. Which has a very strong feeling of completion as you get to the top of it. Now, this strong sense of resolution in the scale can be used to write some very satisfying sounding melodies. For example, the aforementioned Oompa Loompa music starts like this. Lands us very firmly in the key of A minor. We're using all the notes we would expect in an A natural minor scale. But then, for our powerful climactic resolution at the end of the song, we climb up the notes of the melodic minor. And the sense of resolve is all the stronger as a result of it. Now, another song I mentioned, Hot Stuff by Donna Summer, is quite interesting because this one provides a sense of the melodic minor through the harmony, that is to say the chords being used. We're in the key of G minor here, and the chorus of the song goes like this: G minor, B flat, C, and D. So if we look at what's going on there, we start out with a very typical minor move from the root minor chord up a minor third to a B flat. Now then the C major chord comes in. If we were sticking to the natural minor exclusively for this song, the chorus would sound like this. Kind of not as good, right? And that's because we get that stronger resolve by using chords which use notes from the melodic minor scale. So that C major contains an E natural note, which is the major sixth of G minor. And then we go to D major, which has an F sharp note in it, which is the major seventh of G minor. So again, within the chords, we're getting that climb up the melodic minor scale. And of course, it's pretty much a rule to discuss Greensleeves when you're talking about the melodic minor scale. Although this one, it's actually a little bit of a confusing example because many different versions exist of this tune and some of them are slightly different than others. But most of us would probably agree that this is an acceptable version of it. And you'll notice yet again, at the climax of the song, we get that climb up, major 6, major 7, root note, in a minor context. So how best to implement this scale in your own writing? Well, to answer that, we're going to look at a rather key thing that these pieces of music have in common beyond just the intervals being used. And for that, we're just going to revisit the structure of the scale. So an interesting aspect to the construction of this scale, if you were asked to play an A melodic minor scale in a traditional classical guitar exam, and you did this, that would actually be incorrect. The correct way to play a melodic minor scale in the classical tradition would, believe it or not, be like this. It's different on the way down than on the way up. On the way up, as discussed, we had a root, a second, minor third, fourth, fifth, major 6th, major 7th, and then a root note. But then when we descend the scale, we suddenly play a minor 7th, a minor 6th, 5th, 4th, minor 3rd, 2nd, root. So in other words, it reverts to a typical natural minor scale when you descend the notes. So this idea of using notes differently on the way up to on the way down can give you a pretty useful insight into how to write an effective melody with this scale. Now, of course, as with all music theory, this is convention. It's a guideline. It's not a rule in any sense. But it's interesting to note how often songs that do use this scale, whether consciously or not, do adhere to it. For example, going back to that Oompa Loompa music, if we think of the bit of the tune that does this, notice as the melody descends, we have the minor 7th. If we use the melodic minor on the way down as well, doesn't sound quite as promising. So let's look at ways we can use this idea to start to try and construct a bit of a tune of our own. So by way of an example, I've made a little loop here in the key of C minor, which goes like this. So I've not gone hardcore jazz or anything like that. It's a pretty typical pop rock kind of a sequence. We're going C minor, then F minor, then E flat, and then G. So the crucial moment for my melodic minor content is going to be that moment where the G chord takes us back around to the start to C minor. that's going to be the moment where that climb up through the major 6th and major 7th back to the root note is going to sound really effective. So I'll try just improvising a little bit over the top of it. So I'm going to treat that as natural minor right up until that last bar, the turnaround. So there we have it. As I was saying earlier, by no means a set of rules to follow or anything like that, but if you've not used the melodic minor scale before, hopefully there are a few ideas there to get you started. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting and subscribing. I'm pathetically grateful to all of you who do, and I'll see you again with something else very soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers.